Hello everyone and welcome to Mappers episode number 3. I of course am your host Nursky, and then joining me today, as always, our other hosts of the show is going to be of course Iron Man and then Prodigy, and then sadly this week Subaru Man is pretty sick, so he's not going to be on the show today, although I do have some of his thoughts on some of the topics to share with everybody, so we do at least have that going for us, so that's a good thing. Got my glasses on today. I quite literally, funny story, had to run into the door today because I had a flat tire coming home from just driving out for a while, and literally got in the door at about 3 p.m. So I apologize for the little bit of a delay in our start, but hopefully the show will more than make up for it for you guys. So how's everybody else doing today? I know some of you guys had a couple of the little technical glitches as well.
Yeah, I still have one. I have the stream open right now, and like my mouth isn't actually showing, or it's like frozen, but like the rest of my face is still going.
Yeah, your face is like cutting in half. We're gonna try do a little on-the-fly editing here and see if I can get your
screen isn't actually doing anything. But other than that, I'm doing fantastic.
Get your face added back to the screen properly. Look at this. You're still. I guess you're just gonna be the man with the cut-up mouth today. I don't know how else to.
Oh, I'm gonna have so much fun with this.
How else to get it to fix? This is kind of like one of those things where I'm at the point now that I have no idea, and we're just gonna go with it. But at least people can see you, because the weird part is like on the screen region that I put on there for you, like you're fine, but for some reason over to Skype, it's not fine. It's anything but fine. But whatever. We're doing it live. Let's go. So anyways, guys, today's topics, I already have them up on the screen. We're going to have a little bit of discussion about some of the April Fool's topics that came up, since it is the week of April Fool's. So I guess April Fool's and technology is playing a little bit of an April Fool's on us this week, slowing us down just a tiny bit. We're going to be also talking, of course, about the Season 7 map pool. That is going to be, of course, the majority of our show. And then we'll have Q&A with you guys, and then, of course, our closings. So let's actually start a little bit with April Fool's. Going to go over it kind of briefly, talk about what we thought was good maybe out of some of the April Fool's jokes. Of course, there was a lot of them out there. Blizzard had some. Complexity had some. There was the Eclipsio April Fool's joke out there. A couple other ones as well that people posted on various forums or whatnot. So let's just start with you guys, and curious if there was any of them that you guys found particularly funny or particularly bad.
I really like the Blizzard one for the supply depot. That one was so wicked awesome.
And there was a
read up
minigame
on it, and they made it look so legitimate and everything too. Like, you can now raise and you can lower the supply depot. It's just like so cool. And I actually tried it today. And at first there was like a little intro, and like you can't raise or lower, but there's like this woman that like runs out to you, and she just stands there. And this SCV comes by and like kills her, and then puts her on his shoulder and runs away. And then it's like, okay, stage 1. And then you can like raise and lower it, and you're like ready, and you see this little blue marine like run up to you, and he runs past your supply depot, and then you raise it, and it's like mission complete. And then it goes to this ridiculous amount of credits. There's like 3 assistants to every title.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. I love that one.
Yeah, I thought that one was pretty good too. There's any of them with you, Prodigy, you thought were particularly interesting, or did you even get a chance to check them out?
I didn't get a chance to see too many of them this weekend. I was at Canada Cup April Duels, watching some of the fighting game stuff that was going down there. They flew out Justin Wong for kind of a smaller local tournament that they did in Bar. It was pretty cool. I saw a handful of the stuff on Reddit. I saw like the Supply Depot one, and I think the one that probably made me laugh the most was Complexity switching over to mobile games, along with that WCG announcement, which still doesn't make any sense to me. I mean,
yeah, that wasn't an April
mobile
Fool's.
games, they're right.
That wasn't an April Fool's. That's the worst part.
Like, you go to like some esports event, and you're like, "Hello, I'm a professional Karam 3D player. What do you guys do? It's like, well, I play StarCraft 2. It's like, well, I like to play Chiron 3D. Like that in and of itself sounds like a joke, but it's like actually not.
No.
As
Um,
hard as hard as it is to believe, there was another one where it said IEM bans Koreans.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I actually fell for it. I'm like, what?
Well, the only one that I didn't like was the Eclipsio one. Like, that one I thought was like,
I saw. I was like, meh.
that one
Next.
just kind of felt like the, like, hey guys, I got a great idea. Like, you're with your friends, you're in a theater, you're watching a movie, and all of a sudden you have this great idea. You're like, guys, it's April 1st. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna yell fire in the theater or bomb in the theater.
Oh
And
no!
it's gonna be awesome. And
Oh
then
no!
you do it, and everybody runs out and tramples over each other, and people break their arms, and then the police show up, and you go, "Oh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea." I mean, like that's kind of how that one felt to me, because like they were kidding about a subject that's not really that funny, right? Because it's happened in the past where players have gotten screwed over by teams and stuff and not paid and stuff like that. So I think that's why like you saw this like huge dichotomy between the two different like opinions of this joke. Like some people are like, "Is this a joke?" And then a lot of people like they saw the post and they were just stark raving mad at Eclipse right off the bat. And then after they announced it was a joke, like half the people were like, "Oh, haha, I see. It wasn't that great, but okay." And other people were like, "This is a travesty. I can't believe you guys did this. Now the next time a player posts, no one's gonna believe them." And like there was like this like two different sides of it. And I didn't really take sides in the matter because, I mean, I thought it was a bad joke, but I mean, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
But that was the only
Hi
one that I was thought was like,
Hi-Rez did a pretty good one. They announced that they fixed a bug that allowed skiing in Tribes, which is like the entire reason Tribes is fun.
uh-huh.
And they're like, now you can move like every other FPS ever. We've added brand new features like sprinting and going prone. It's totally amazing. Wow, this is like the best game ever, you guys.
Yeah, there is definitely some good ones. I don't know if there's any other good ones out there that I could think of. I definitely checked out the Blizzard ones. I checked out all the ones that were on Team Liquid. I heard about that high res one, even though I didn't actually get a chance to see it yet. But yeah, I think that's about it I can think of as far as the April Fool's jokes go.
The the one that I think they really overdid was the map making ones. Like there were a couple that were funny, and then there's like 10 more April Fool's maps that pop up, and it's like, okay, okay, we get it. Like too many of these.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the mobile gaming ones because a lot of people did the mobile gaming joke too.
Yeah.
Because I know Complexity did, someone else did it too. I was trying to remember who else did it, but they did the exact same joke where they're like, "We go mobile gaming." I thought the one from the Zeke guys was cute. They had the announcement of the admin house, the Zeke
I didn't
admin
see that
house, and then they posted again later on, I believe the same day. They said, "Unfortunately, we had to cancel the Zeke admin house." Yeah, they had like a picture of a house and everything in the post. Like it was very elaborately done. That was definitely one of the more elaborate ones that I saw, aside from maybe Complexities, where they had like the whole intro video for the mobile gaming thing. Which I thought was hilarious. All right, so I think at this point we'll move off April Fools and we'll start to get to the topic at hand, which is going to be the Season 7 map pools. I was going to take a quick break, but considering we had a 20-minute break before the show started, I think I'm going to just throw that into the back burner for now. So we're going to move straight into the Season 7 ladder pools for pretty much the rest of the time up until Q&A for everybody tuning in. And then once we do get to Q&A, we will, of course, have anybody who has any questions at all for us can go ahead and throw them up.
Yep.
Just taking
In
care
the
of
chat.
one last thing real quick. There we go. So yeah, so if you guys have questions throughout the show while we're discussing this, just feel free to go ahead and moving stuff around. Feel free to go ahead and just post them in the chat, and then once we get to Q&A, we will discuss them with you guys. So first off, in the Season 7 ladder mode, of course, we have maps going out, maps coming in. Maps coming in, we have Ohana LE, we have Daybreak LE, and we have Metropolis LE. And then the maps that we have going out is just the Shattered Temple. So I think this is going to be the first time that they're actually increasing the map pool size that I'm aware of since basically the game released. I don't know if you guys remember them actually ever increasing the map pool size before significantly.
I think they did like early beta when they just didn't have any more maps to add. Like when they added like Delta Quadrant and whatever other garbage map they added at the same time as that. Jungle
Yeah.
Base and stuff like that. I don't think they pulled anything out when they did. I think they went from 5 to 7, if I recall correctly.
Right. So this is gonna be the first time that they're making like I think a huge bump in the map pool. Now they're gonna be going up to I think total maps. It's gonna put it somewhere in the neighborhood of 9, I want to say, or 10.
I think it's 10.
Yeah. So of all the maps that leave, only Shattered Temple leaves. So I guess we can start there a little bit. I think everybody would probably agree that Shattered Temple leaving the map pool is a good thing. The map, I felt like it run its course, but I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think?
I don't think it should have had a course to run. Like, the minute I saw the map, I was like, this is crap. Like, Lost Temple wasn't that good, and this map is a Band-Aid fix to a poorly executed concept to begin with. I mean, it was better than Lost Temple, for sure, but it was still just straight up, it was a shitty map, and I'm glad to see it gone.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Now, one thing I feel interesting is the fact that they left some other maps in that I mean, like, I get their idea to expand the map pool, but I almost feel like now with this expanded map pool, it's actually almost a little difficult for people to use map votes to actually get rid of all the maps that they're maybe not going to be as comfortable with. Because, I mean, typically any map eventually is going to show proclivity towards, like, um, certain styles of play or certain races and such forth. So if you don't like to play a certain way, or if you play a certain race, you're eventually going to back away from one map or another because it doesn't fit your play style. So like for instance, some people don't like to play really heavy macro games. So like maps like Tal'Darim are maybe Antigua and Entombed maybe, but not as much. But like they're basically become an instant downvote for the players because they don't want to play really long macro games. They prefer to play shorter games. Versus like say maps out there like Entombed, which I think everybody could agree are more favorable in a lot of matchups towards Protoss and towards Terran matchups, more so than like the Zerg matchups. So a lot of Zerg players, if they're just a ladder player, will have more of a opinion to downvote a map like Entombed. But I feel like with how big this map pool is, it's actually going to be kind of hard to downvote the maps you don't feel like playing on because there's just so many maps now. I know PvP, almost every PvP player downvotes Tal'Darim because they don't want to play on Tal'Darim because Tal'Darim PvP is terrible. So of the maps that were left in the map pool that I thought stood out to me that possibly could have gone, and I'm kind of curious what you guys' thoughts were on this, is Entombed, which we know has balance issues. Metalopolis, which is just old as dirt, is still in the map pool. And then you have Tal'Darim, and then to some extent Shattered Temple is very old as well, even though it does typically make for mostly balanced gameplay. So what are you guys' thoughts on the fact that they actually left those maps in the map pool?
Iron Man sounds like he's going to say something.
He's winding
You go
up.
first.
All right. Entombed blows, Metal blows, Tal'Darim is okay. I'll throw that on the table. But I'll start with Entombed. I mean, like again, it's another map. Right when I saw it, I didn't think it was that great. It's certainly better than a lot of the 4-player maps that Blizzard has made thus far. I think Blizzard's logic here is they want to see the map pool go to 10 maps, just so like the competitive players can use the ladder map pool as like a bigger practice ground. So they have a bigger variety of maps to play on, and they're still seeing tournaments use Entombed Valley, which I think as a whole is a mistake. Because like you said, the map has balance issues.
Yeah.
And all in all, it's not really that interesting of a map at the end of the day. There's really nothing to it. Like, you take your natural expansion, you might take like a relatively easy third. You dick around that third and like the little block of the little chunk of terrain that has the destructible rocks. And like in front of that between the two ramps, and then like you just run armies into each other. That really is, like from a spectator and commentator point of view, like the entire map. For the most part, I mean, obviously, as the game gets further on, maybe it gets a little bit more interesting. But again, going back to like what I was saying before and like some of the previous podcasts we did, there's still an opportunity cost with using a map like that. There are simply better maps that the ladder map pool could be using, or that tournament map pools could be using. And one of the things that having this map in the ladder map pool does for this map is continues to legitimize it from a tournament director point of view. So when they look at it and they go, all right, well, I need to pick some maps for my tournament. I'm going to pick some ladder maps. And, oh, wow, Entombed Valley. This looks like, yeah, it's been around the ladder for quite some time. So I think a lot of people will be really familiar with it, and everybody will be happy with that choice. So I'll take Entombed, and I'll take Metal, and I'll take Tal'Darim, and maybe I'll throw Cloud Kingdom in there.
Right.
Just as a brief example. But there's consequences, and I would very much like to see it go. It's also something like MLG asked me to criticize their map pool a little bit. It was like Metal and Entombed really need to go.
Yeah.
Moving on, I've said enough about Metalopolis already. Metalopolis is killing esports. That map just I'm never gonna play it. I'm gonna downvote it like as soon as season 7 starts. I have no interest in playing it. It's old, it's boring, it's figured out. And as a player, as a spectator, as a commentator, it gives me absolutely nothing. And it's just time to move on with that one. Tal'Darim Altar I like because I'm a macro player, but I play Protoss, so PvP on it. Like you said, it sucks. But, I mean, I'm okay with it staying for another season or two if it has to, but it's still like getting to the point where it's run its course. And it should probably be making its way out in the very near future, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm speaking from a Zerg standpoint on this one. I mean, I agree with Prodigy on everything that he said, but I think that from a Zerg standpoint, I can understand why Shattered would go because, you know, if a Protoss went for a Forge Fast Expand, you, as a normal reaction for a Zerg player, you want to take a quick third. And Shattered Temple doesn't really offer that. You either have to spend time breaking down rocks and Prodigy's evil look, and or you have to, you know, go all the way across the map and cut off that easy supply line. And you know, if your opponent catches you, you know, in the center of the map, you know, Zerglings running in like across the map, it's like, oh, I'll just go get his third.
Well, there was always a third option because you could do the hatch next to the destructible rock style too, which isn't optimal, like at the gold base.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just felt very uncomfortable as a Zerg player because it's like, well, I have to spend too much time breaking down rocks, or I have to take a really far away third. So I'm really glad that map went. Whereas, you know, Shakuras or Metalopolis or Tal'Darim,
right?
Those maps have an easier third.
Yeah.
And they're just more macro oriented. And so as a Zerg player, I'm still okay with those maps even though some of them are like stupid old. And Entombed Valley, I've actually never played that map once. Not once.
It's straight veto.
I know, I just remember looking at it, and it's like, this map is choky as hell.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can people
aside
like,
from the
like,
middle,
this is
yeah,
a really balanced map? I just don't understand it. I'm like, this looks so choky. So I've never played it, and I know that, like, I shouldn't really talk about balance on it because I've never played it, but I've watched plenty of games on it, and it's just like, I'm not going to associate myself with it.
Yeah. I played on Entombed some last season. I eventually downvoted it because I got frustrated with the games on it. But I main Zerg when I play on the ladder, and I played out Entombed, and in any position but close positions, it felt okay. But anytime you had the close position spawns, because it's one of those maps that still has close position spawns possible, it was a really tough map to use with the way the layout was, because it was really difficult to attack your opponent. Because for Terran and for Protoss, the one nice thing that they have is kind of like what Tal'Darim sometimes I think suffers from a little bit, is you have the first 3 expansions all on that high ground plateau. And with them all being on that high ground plateau, they basically just have to make sure they keep an eyeball on the ramps. But it's even worse on Entombed compared to Tal'Darim because the ramps are very close to each other with just a small choke point in between. So if the army's kind of straddling the natural and the third, for like Protoss, for instance, they can throw down force fields on that ramp pretty easily and break any army you throw at them in half. So it makes it tough, I should say, to assault Terran or Protoss. They essentially can get the 3 bases without you doing much about it unless you do some kind of a really early game push, and I felt like I almost had to do that in close proximity on that map. So I know I ended up downvoting it, but yeah, I mean, that was, I think, some of the things it suffered from, is it's just so easy to get the 3 bases, and then the force weren't really terrible, because you really had a decent amount of options for the fourth, but they were hard to take. So, like, the game would just get into a really weird spot at the 4th base, I felt like.
Yeah, definitely. It has a really, really, really wonky late game. I had mentioned in the first podcast we did, I threw games to get to silver so I could 1-base carrier people, and like I thought that map was great for that because everybody thought it was like, wow, he's just going to take his 3 bases in the corner and the map is never going to go further than that. So like I was free to get a warp prism and drop on the semi islands or take like a random corner expansion, and like I think it's a great map to do like stupid crap like that on at like low levels, but like that does not legitimize the map in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know. I'm not a fan of the map conceptually or design wise or anything like that. I think it's not a very good concept, nor was it executed very well, as is the case with the majority of Blizzard maps, where they have oftentimes a decent concept, but they're just not very good at executing it. And then I guess the last thing I didn't touch on before was Shakuras. I'm currently still kind of okay with seeing Shakuras around simply because, like we said in the last podcast, Shakuras is a map that really only has 1 attack path, which is covered by 2 Xel'Naga towers. And in order to avoid that, you need to get drops and stuff. And I think it's cool to see a map like that in the map pool. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's the same as Metalopolis or Tolreem. It's run its course. Replace it with something that's maybe kind of similar, where it's like maybe another single attack path map, but has some different dynamics around it. Like it has a benefit in a map pool, but it's time for something different. I think shake things up a bit, keep everything fresh, keep it interesting. I don't think it should be continuing to get used in tournament map pools, but it still does.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part I think about Entombed, is that they still use it in tournaments, especially considering the balance issues that are on it. I mean, I know to some extent even Terran struggles with Protoss a little bit on this map, just because it can be very difficult for them to stop the Protoss from getting on 3 bases, which, I mean, in some respects I feel like TVP and ZVP work similarly in the fact that typically Zerg and Terran have the same objective in mind in the matchup, where they don't want to let the Protoss player get on 3 bases if they can avoid it. Because their army becomes significantly weaker against the Protoss army once the Protoss can get on 3 bases, where they are going to be able to max out at some point, and their army's going to be a lot harder to deal with. So it feels like, you know, that with the way that map is, it tends to be a little more favorable towards Protoss up to like that 3 base point. And then once you get to that 4th base point, it just kind of goes in all different directions depending on spawning positions and stuff like that. Like Terran does very well in close spawn, where they can take a planetary on that in-between base, so that they can basically be attacking to you and expanding really directly on their attack path. So, like, I just feel like it's kind of weird and it plays out odd, and I definitely would agree with you guys that it'd be nice to see it go, especially from a commentator's perspective. Off at least the tournament scene at bare minimum, I'd hate to see it in another MLG, IPL, GSL, or anywhere, really.
Yeah, and one of the points that I want to make about maps like that, specifically for tournaments, is a tournament looks at that map, like historically speaking, they see that map, they see get out of the ladder, and then they ask a player, it's like, well, if the close spawn positions are such a problem, if I just block that spawn position, do you think that would make everything go away? No! That's a band-aid solution. It's still a shitty map. It doesn't make it better. It just makes it less shitty.
Right.
It's still shitty.
Yeah, you can't.
It's like if you wipe your butt, you still have shitty toilet paper. What's the difference? It's bad. It's crappy. It's a bad map. Anyway.
Yeah, I personally agree with you on that. Like, people should, because we actually had that question come up last week, where people were like, oh, should you guys try and go back and fix maps that were broken, like Scrap Station. You know, everybody called it Crap Station for a reason, because it was a bad map. Like it's like no, it's like honestly, I've kind of felt the same way. Is why fix a bad map that's broken? We just totally have lost
I
Iron
win.
Man.
I
But
killed
why
Iron
fix a
Man.
broken map when you can just get rid of it with for a better map? Because there's so many maps out there, you know, especially with organizations like, of course, ESV and TPW, like trying to band map makers together to make maps. There's so many great maps out there. You know, why even try and
Exactly.
fix a toilet map like Crap Station?
Exactly. There's an opportunity cost. By using a shitty map, you're not using a map that doesn't suck.
Right.
Like, what's the point? I could make more stupid euphemisms, but like, I think you guys get the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just throw away the bad maps. Get rid of them.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that map go in the near future for maybe season 8 when they'll add some more tournament maps and they'll dump some of these other maps that are kind of questionable or old. Like maybe not necessarily bad, but just old. So I mean, like they really got some good candidates. I feel like with Entombed, Tal'Darim, just because of the PvP issues. I mean, any PvP on Tal'Darim is a 4-gate. And that's kind of lame
Yeah.
for the players. It's not going to be very exciting for the players. So I could see as a Protoss player almost always keeping Tal'Darim downvoted. And then Metal, of course, is old, and the metagame on it's old too, I feel like. I mean, like, for instance, CVP, Protoss isn't going to forge fast, expand, and live. I know that for a fact. I've had people numerous times try it against me, and I just rush to roaches every single time and they die because there's just too much area to defend for them to play the standard metagame on that map.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily bad that you can't play the standard metagame on a map, but I mean it's a really old figured out map. And then of course you do have Entombed as well that can go. So I feel like they have some more flexibility. So hopefully once we move out of season 7 into season 8, we'll be talking about how they got rid of some of these old maps and now we have some more newer maps going to map. Well, maybe they'll start making maps again. We'll see Steps of War version 2.0.
I would actually be okay with that.
You'd be okay with Steps of War 2.0?
Steps of War actually has like a pretty cool concept, and we don't have a ton of rush maps in the map pool right now. Like a lot of the maps in the map pool right now are they're very rush or they're very macro oriented at this point. You always want to force fast expand. I don't want like an exact remake with a 22-second ramp to ramp. Yes, I know that fact because if you have a 22-second ramp to ramp time, then you get Steps of War, and then your map turns into like a 6 pool every game, and you have a problem. But it had a bunch of really cool ideas, and I think like if they were to revisit that idea and do like a much better job, then it might not be so bad. But
It'd be like from Lost Temple to Shattered Temple.
It's still a shitty map, just a shitty remake.
I think
I'm not saying remake it exactly, but like take some of the same concepts
Okay.
about it and
so you like
use
some of
it.
the concepts, not the map itself.
No, like design wise, it's ass tier, 100%. And I don't know, if you were to take some of the ideas and remake it, then or I should say remake it, but take some of the ideas and put them into a new map, it might be okay.
Yeah, maybe
You
if it
can't
was like
remake
twice the
that map.
size.
Yeah,
You can't remake a
No.
bad map. If you remake it and add on to it, it becomes a new map. It's not a remake, it's a new map.
Right.
Yeah, people call it, oh, Scrap Station RE. It's like, it's not an RE, it's a new map.
Yeah.
revised edition, man. It's
Well,
just revised.
I
Just reviewed it.
I think some people tend to go to the RE type of thing because maybe they're not like, because I think there's some people especially who maybe aren't the greatest map designer out there. They'll take like an old concept. They'll be like, I had some ideas to fix this map forever ago. I played on it a ton. I feel comfortable taking like Scrap Station and rearranging it and changing it to be like a good map now. Whereas they don't feel comfortable like literally just putting their whole own design out there. So that might be part of it, I
Yeah.
think. That you see people do a lot of, because I've seen multiple versions of a lot of the old broken maps hit the map pool at one time or another. Because I'll occasionally just try out maps for the fun of it, and yeah, some of them are just like really bad remakes
Yeah.
of the originals.
There are some just straight up bad ideas that you don't want to do. Like have like the ridiculously massive main base of Steps of War that makes the ramp like that effectively makes the ramps like right in front of each other. That's just there's nothing intelligent about that idea.
No, Steps was
So-
probably the worst map. Well, you know what? Actually, I take that back. I don't think Steps was the worst map Blizzard ever made. Because they made Steps and they knew how bad it was, and then that did not stop them from making, what the heck was that name of the quote unquote rush map that they added for, I think it was season
Blistering
5.
sites?
No,
Oh.
season 5.
Slag pits?
No, it was like
Jungle Basin?
Scorched something or another.
Oh,
Scorch Basin or something like that.
Scorched Haven, I
You
think
know,
it was.
you know what I'm talking about. No, Scorched Haven's
Yeah.
2v2 map,
Scorch Haven.
it's a
Yeah.
2v2 map. But they
Oh.
added the 1v1 map that when they previewed the maps, it was called the Rush map, and it was like in
Burning
Toon Valley
Crater,
2.0. Yeah, Burning Crater or something like that. Yeah, that map. Anyways, like that's probably the worst map, only because they knew their lesson with Steps of War before they even made that map.
I don't think that was the worst map. I think literally the worst map that Blizzard ever put into the ladder was probably Incineration Zone. That I have never played on such an awkward map in my entire life. Like I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take a natural expansion, and then my backdoor is broken down like as I'm like hitting 20 supply, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Or what was that map where your
Reproduction of the
natural was like 100 feet away from you? I don't think it was Kulas Ravine. It was a sand map.
Blistering Sands.
No, not Blistering Sands. It was the other one.
Was it the 4-player one?
It might have been Kulas Ravine, and I'm just being insane. But no, it was like you had like
Oh, Desert Oasis.
yeah, Desert Oasis.
Desert, yeah.
Yeah, where you
Oh,
had like the main that was huge up top, and then there
Yeah.
was like a ramp at the edge of the huge main, and then like 50,000 feet away from that, like 2 miles down the road, was your natural expansion. So like for Zerg, it took like 10 creep tumors to get to your
Yeah.
natural.
See, but Desert Oasis is a perfect example of what I was saying. It's a map with an absolutely brilliant concept, but design-wise, it's horrible. Just think about like it's a reflection symmetry map. It's not it's not reflection. It's rotational symmetry map.
Yeah.
So what that means, you take one half of the map and then you flip it instead of just like copy it and reflect it.
Right.
And it's got like a close by air distance like main to main, but the ground distance is really, really big.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the things about the map were really, really cool, but the proportions were just so friggin' bad. It's unreal how bad they were.
Yeah.
And that like as an example of what you were talking about, like it's a map that a lot of people have tried to do some kind of revision or remake on. Not a lot of them were done super well. But again, I still think it's like a really, really cool concept to have like a reflection symmetry 2-player map that's
Yeah.
close by air but still really long by ground. That I would like to see revisited properly and done properly.
All right.
I don't see how you can fix a concept like that, because I think Blizzard has learned now with Desert Oasis and Scrap Station that the mains being like that close is just a bad idea. That's screaming for a 1-1-1 build or something, which I used to do because I played Terran in Season 1. And I just don't like. I don't understand how you can just redo that concept without keeping the mains still close to each other, because that's still a bad concept in itself. You would have people nowadays want mains like way far away now, so
Yeah.
it's like I sure I actually like Desert Oasis, and I still do, because I like the design idea behind it. I just don't see how you can fix it for the current metagame. I just don't.
No, I
Without
think-
making it completely
Well,
different.
Well, before we talk too much about old maps, and we actually rein in the conversation, because we've been off topic now for about 20 minutes. So, so we're gonna get back to the season 7 map pool. I do want to take a really quick break though, right before we do go to the season 7 ladder maps. We're gonna move next into discussing actually the maps going in, and the dreaded LE is how I have this topic actually listed as for this subtopic for season 7 map pools. So we're talking about, when we come back, a little bit about what they changed for the 3 new maps coming in. Moving into season 7 ladder. So guys, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in just 1 second. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Mappers Episode 3. We're going to be moving out their topics. Had a little bit of a side discussion, which I thought we actually was kind of interesting because we went into some good points about some of the old map pools and stuff, and some of the things they've attempted to change, which does kind of lead us into our next topic because we're going to talk a little bit about the maps and what they changed moving into Season Ladder 7. So I'm going to bring up onto the screen on the stream now for you guys, and I'm going to have these guys, Prodigy and Iron Man, talk about it a little bit. So I'm bringing up Ohana first. So this, I want to say, is the original version of Ohana that I have up on the desktop right now for you guys to look at.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
That is.
But
The
this,
original version.
yeah, this is like the Team Liquid map making competition version of Ohana. And then we had another rendition of Ohana, which this still looks somewhat similar, I want to say, but it is a little bit different. And now we have, I give to you guys, everybody loved this map, thought it was beautiful, the LE edition of Ohana. And I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are when maps move from the map we saw here, which was basically the last version of the map, I think, before moving to the ladder edition of the map, versus now we have the ladder version of the map.
There's been so many fixes with that map. I'm like pestered right now. I finally got it done. There's like so many different versions.
Now, is the neutral supply depot going in on Ohana? I'm curious, or is that just on this version?
It's just for the tournaments.
Okay.
When Blizzard posted the image, there is no depot.
Okay. So this little depot
so-
over here won't be here.
Yeah, it's just for tournaments. The TLMC version, the Team Liquid Map Contest one,
Uh-huh.
where like all the bases are on like high ground, it had a really nice concept, and it grabbed second place, and everyone really liked that one a lot. It was a very technical map. The problem was that the third was seen as a little bit too far, and the fourth and sometimes your fifth was almost impossible to take without being so ridiculously close to your opponent that it's like you might as well just play 2 or 3 base. But I didn't really know like what to do with that. I thought like, well, I'm just gonna leave it for now. And then NASL contacted me and they're like, we really want to use this, but we need to make some changes. And they gave me changes, and then I applied those, and that's what Ohana RE is. And basically, I had to move the third and the fourth closer to your natural, and basically also push the mains up more in the corners and make them a little bit bigger, and then also to prevent the Terran elevator play into the main, to put a gap between the fifth that hugs your main and the main itself, so that the elevator tactics won't, create some problems. So. And then that was in the RE version. And then Blizzard contacted me by email, and they were like, well, we want to add this to the ladder.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, go ahead and test it. And they said they tested it, and it was originally supposed to be in Season 6 with Core Hall Compound and Cloud Kingdom, but they were like, there's a few problems with it. There's a lot of graphical issues, and all the water on the outside of RE with all the little canyons and stuff, that caused a lot of graphic issues. And they said I had to get rid of that, and so I did. And then I showed it to them again, and they're like, okay, now you need to get rid of the rivers. And I was like, no! The rivers were like the best thing about Ohana. That they were like the finishing touch, they were like the soul of that map and the aesthetics and everything. And so I got rid of it, and they basically told me, like, for it to work on ladder, it has to be smooth from level to level on the terrain. And so that's what I had to end up doing. And when I did that, the aesthetics looked like crap, like with the textures and everything. So I had to retexture it. And what you see in the GSL right now, where it's like super green and like blotchy everywhere, that's how it was when it got retextured. And then Blizzard again came to me, and they're like, this is too distracting. We need to make some necessary changes for ladder. And then they retextured it for me and came out with the LE version, which is what you see right now for Season 7. And finally, that's how it is. and they're like, here you go, you can put a depot on it for tournaments and everything like that. So there you go. And honestly, like I miss the RE version because I really miss the rivers and everything like that. But you do what you got to do. So that's basically how Ohana got to where it is right now and why there's been so many different changes to it.
So I'm curious. I mean, I'm looking at this and it's definitely a lot blander version of the original map. I still think it's better than some things I've seen. It at least has some liveliness to it, but it feels a little bit more like a
It's a
not
lot
so
more generic.
oasis-y desert anymore. I'm kind of curious though why Blizzard can't get their issues figured out with water, because I know they have like water on some maps like Shakiris, and there's that giant waterfall in Dual Sight. I'm kind of wondering. Well, I mean that's not a
Well,
Blizzard map, but I'm kind of
what
wondering why they can't get it figured out.
what I've well, okay, that's one side of it, but we have to understand too that I asked them like, can I just keep the rivers in and still make the rivers pathable but still unbuildable? And they're like, it's going to confuse people. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, why would anyone in their right mind just build production buildings on the rivers? Like, if you're going to proxy someone, you're going to build it at their third or their fourth, not in the middle of the map on the river, unless it's a pylon, which didn't have any effect to it. But some people who did, the water would like cut off and it would get all jagged and everything like that. And you would, if you look closely in some games, the terrain would be sloped and then you would see it kind of flatten out.
Mm.
Mhm.
That was another issue. So it's just caused a lot of terrain graphical issues, and that's one of the reasons why there couldn't be water on it. So
So, graphically aside, though, how do you guys feel this map will end up actually playing out? Because I know there's been some people who have had some concerns back and forth about it, but how do you guys feel like the map will actually end up playing, aesthetics aside?
I think it plays pretty well. I've seen quite a few games in the NASL, the Korean Weekly, and a couple games in the GSL so far, and a lot of it is 3 or 4 base play. It's usually around 3 base play, um, and the map was designed to encourage macro play on 3 bases, but to take a fourth or fifth, you have to be a little bit risky and a little bit more aggressive. So that's why I really like its concept. I wish there could be a sixth base for each player. Um, I think 5 bases is enough because taking a fourth or a fifth is relatively more challenging than your average five base map.
Mhm.
And so that's why 6 bases feels almost like it's too many bases for this map in particular, because you're always having to fight over your last base or your last 2 bases. So I think it's definitely a very aggressive map.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of games, particularly in the Korean Weekly, because it's pretty much the only thing I watch on a consistent basis. Obviously, because I'm also a commentator for it, but a lot of the games I see are actually really, really interesting. They're not very turtle oriented, aside from like a Protoss player setting up a forge fast expansion on top of that ramp, just so we can get a 2 base economy going, which is not like the worst thing in the world. Um, so gameplay wise, I think it's fantastic. It's got a lot of really interesting things about it, army positioning and tactics. There's a lot of room for mechanics like marine splitting and stuff like that around the Zelnaga towers and stuff in TVZ. So it's got everything that needs to be a really solid map. But like you were saying, like the idea of water confusing players being something that Blizzard is concerned with, to me is like one of the most disheartening and disappointing things I could ever hear in my life, as
Mm.
far as StarCraft is concerned.
Yeah, it kind of really, as a map maker, it kind of just kills me because now it's like I can never create a beach map ever again.
Hmm.
Like a naturally looking beach map without Blizzard saying, well, that water's going to cause problems. Like it's 2012. Like, why don't people have good computers for StarCraft 2? That just baffles me.
Well, I think
Like,
some of it maybe goes back to the whole concept of video game designers assuming that the end user is stupid. I mean, like, I'd hate to say it, but, like, there's been this transition in video games just overall where things have gotten less and less and less and less and less and less complicated. Because, like, for instance, like Prodigy said,
Hmm.
players being confused about water and whether or not they can move on it. Well, a smart player would try, and then if they can't, They won't. I mean, like, for instance, on this map, if you look at the I'm going to bring up my desktop again. If you just look, for instance, at the, I'm going to zoom in on it even, to the center area of this particular map. Whoa. Alright, so I'm going to bring up the center area. If you look at the center area where you have the Xel'Naga Towers placed, I'm going to actually circle them on the map here for everybody. There's water in between the Xel'Naga Towers on the RE version of the map. So for a player to try and take the Xel'Naga Tower, like, it's already built into the map that you have to go through the water to take the Xel'Naga Tower, and I think your average player would be smart enough to figure that out.
I mean, how hard is it, though? Like, you right-click, and then you go, oh, it works. Okay. Problem solved. It's literally like a millisecond logic equation in your head. Like, I'm pretty sure if you had 30 IQ and knew how to operate a mouse and how to play, like, if you were capable of building the buildings to move your units out, you should be able to figure that out.
Yeah,
that's something that I really don't understand. And like you were saying, where like so many video games have been going downhill, like basically noobifying them has been something that has really, 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 really frustrated me for years. I could blow this entire show away ranting about how angry it makes me, but I won't get too far into that.
Yeah, let's move on to our next map, because we also have changes to other maps that are going to be on the map till now, such as the map Daybreak. And I'm going to actually bring up that picture right now. So this is a picture, it should be a picture, of Daybreak LE. And yes, it is, because you can see immediately. The thing that's going to stand out, I think, the most to people is, now, for people who've seen this map before, I think what will immediately stand out for people, I'm going to actually zoom in on it for a second here so I can actually circle it and point out, is these bases right here by the Xel'Naga Towers have changed significantly. Where they used to be, you could get rid of this extra gas geyser. And then how many minerals was it? It was like two less minerals. It was like 5 minerals, right?
It was 5 or 6. I think it was 6, actually.
It was 5, actually.
So, like, if
5.5.
scribble on the map there a little bit, it's now about the way it used to be. Oh, I'd actually have to get rid of this mineral, too. So that's basically what the map used to be. But now, when I remove my little whiteboard, you can see this is what the middle of the map is. And this is really the biggest change for this map.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious what you guys think about Daybreak here.
So...
Okay. I got a real quick question. I'm seeing on this picture, are those gases still high yield, or did they just leave that little green light in there?
I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure. If
there's a little green glow where the high yield gas goes. I don't know if they left that there, because that kind of confuses me even. I don't know.
I'm not sure either. If they made it high yield, then like there's a good chance I won't play Ladder Season 7, because that would just like I will flip tables. But again, we won't get too big into that. Now, just for everybody at home to explain why they made this change, it's the same reason they made the graphic, or like the same logic behind the water on Ohana. They think that having those half mineral expansion or half gas expansions will be too complicated for the players, and again, that's something that just frustrates me to no end. I'm actually going to post a link in chat. When they announced the poll to figure out which one of the GSL maps was going to be going into the ladder map, it was incredibly obvious that Daybreak was going to win it within like half an hour of that that poll going up, because basically everybody's like, Daybreak's the best map ever. It's the best map ever. And I was on another podcast before this one started, but they invited me on after I made this post, and basically what I had said was that Daybreak was the first map that showed to the masses who didn't watch things like the Korean Weekly, but they watched GSL or MLG or what have you, what StarCraft 2 has the potential to be. This was one of the first maps that I feel really shows the tactical and mechanical side of the game, not the derp total to 3 base and make my army composition that just beats your straight up game. For a lot of really cool reasons, the way the Xel'Naga Towers work, the way the 6 and 12, the expansion of the 6 and 12 work, and particularly the way like the dichotomy between which third and fourth expansion you want to take. The reason Wind Park made that expansion originally a half expansion is because as a player, if I take that as my fourth expansion, I park my army there, and then you basically can't attack into my natural, and I can defend my third really, really, really easily. By ground, of course.
Right.
So to offset that, he made that a smaller expansion so that if you want more resources, you have to take a riskier base.
Right.
That is a brilliant idea. Like, strictly map speaking, it's an excellent idea. I can't stress how awesome that is enough. But now with this expansion being the way it is, there is absolutely no reason for you to go to the corner expansion. It's just dumb. Like, I can't think of a good reason aside from, like, I need to sneak an expansion in because my opponent's parked his army there, which in most cases you're probably dead anyway. But
Yeah, and I just circled that corner expansion now so the viewers can see what you're talking about.
But, like, to paint a scenario here, I'm a Terran player. I've taken my third expansion. What am I going to do? I'm going to put a Marine on the Xel'Naga Tower, throw a planetary down at that now full expansion, and my third natural and main base are basically safe by ground. It's not very much of a stretch for me to go to that corner expansion, and I can take control of the 2 high ground pods at the 6 and 12 relatively easily, which are where the majority of the combat boils down to in the late game, is like being in the right place at the right time. And like, they've completely taken away a huge part of what makes that map great, simply because Blizzard is just, they don't want to have the map be more complex. And like, to me, that is, as a map maker, it's like, one of the things that I want to do as a map maker is make the game better. I want to make it more interesting. I want to make it more complicated so that it has some freshness, so that it stays interesting, so that there's more to the game. I don't want to make it dumber. I don't want to see it get dumber, and that's exactly the way Blizzard is trying to take it.
Yeah, that
And
kind of almost
it's
goes
incredibly
back to that
frustrating.
players are smarter than developers give them credit for. Thing we were talking about is like, and this concept really got ingrained in my head when I watched this other show on YouTube where they were talking about Mega Man, the game Mega Man, and how it was ingenious that the game just inherently taught you how to play. There wasn't somebody teaching you how to play the game. There was no training wheels. It's just the mechanics in the game naturally taught you how to play the game. And basically his gripe was that most games, they dumb things down. They try and be like, it's like, you ever played Zelda? You always have that annoying fairy who's like, hey, over here! Hey, why don't we go to the jungle? Hey! And then you just want to punch the fairy in the head because you get so sick of the fairy, right? Because it's like, duh, I'm going to go to the jungle. It's where I should go next, you stupid fairy. Maybe if these developers designed this game a little more fluently with the story, they wouldn't need you to tell me where to go because I wouldn't be lost. I mean, like, I think there's something to be said, I guess, for, like, give players some more credit. Don't just assume, oh my god, if there's a base that has less minerals, it's gonna confuse players as, oh my god, what should I do? Why would I take this base? I don't understand the game on this level. I think players will just figure it out.
Not just players, but as Blizzard says, new players.
Right.
And you know what? If I was a new player, I would think that's cool. I'd be kind of curious, like, what does that do? And like, you would want to experiment more with it. But it's like, I think Blizzard is just saying, oh well, you know, everything's fine the way it is. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. And you know, let's just try and keep everything here. If we try and go down this route or experiment with it, oh shoot, we might break it. We might lose professionals, you know?
Yeah.
Or, oh, you know, we're going to scare off the new players because they want a easy game. And confusing them with even minerals is just going to make them back off. And it's just they're overthinking it. And it's like, or either that, or they're looking at the current way that the game is balanced, and they're like, well, it's pretty balanced. We don't want to change it because then we're going to have to redo everything, you know?
But
So
this
I
map
think
was made with the 8 mineral 2 gas balance in mind. That's the weird part. Like, if anything, they might imbalance the map by making these changes, not...
I think so, yeah.
I mean, that's really the problem that you said, because like
If anybody's going to have problems because of this change, it's going to be Zerg, theoretically speaking.
Right, because it makes it much easier for Terran and Protoss to get on 4 bases and defend it. Because if they're out at that 4th base, like, what used to really be problematic for them is, since that was only like a half base, you had to eventually take that 4th corner base, which opened you up to counterattack lanes, because it was hard to defend that base and that center base at the same time. You add minerals and gas to that center base, and then you create the situation now where now you don't have to take that 4th corner base to be on 4 bases. And essentially, once most Terran and Protoss are on 4 bases, they can remax just as easily as Zerg can. And you create this scenario now where, well, why would you ever take the corner base until you've taken those first 4, been able to defend them easily and then go do some significant damage to your opponent. So, I mean, in some ways, I feel like they actually wreck some of these maps when they tinker with them so much. It's kind of like when they insisted on putting the destructible rocks on the Tal'Darim third, and then also additionally insisted in doing the same thing with Tal'Darim that they did with this map, where they added minerals and gas to that map. I think in a lot of ways created some of the issues that Tal'Darim's had in ladder play, which is that Terran and Protoss will tend to 3-base turtle on that map, max out and then push, and it's hard to stop them from doing that because they have 3 full bases inside that main, which is something I know that the creator of Tal'Darim, because I had read about this, was adamant about, and he argued with Blizzard about them adding minerals and gas and then just throwing destructible rocks into that 3rd base because it broke his tested balance on that map. It literally broke it.
Yeah.
So we're going to be moving on, though. Let's move on to...
You know, real quick,
Go ahead.
about Daybreak. Now, as a Zerg player, this is what I see happening. Because the center bases are now full bases, I think Zerg is still going to take all the bases because that's what we like to do. We like to expand. But Terran and Protoss are now going to be limited to 3, maybe 4 bases. They're not going to take any more than that unless it's like serious late game, like 40 minutes in. And this is bad for Zerg because now all Terran and Protoss have to do is just park their army at the center base, covering. If Terran or Protoss spawn on the bottom left of Daybreak, all they have to do is park their army above their center base and then take control of the watchtower, and now that's it. And there's no way for Zerg to have any sort of a flanking opportunity or a hit-and-run opportunity without bashing into their army. Now Zerg is limited to Mutalisk, and people don't like Mutalisk. They think that they're overpowered, so this is not making it any better. Yeah. It's just continuing to encourage Zerg to play the way that they already are. And I think that's just going to cause a lot of problems. I think people... will look at this and they'll just be like, well, I don't see what the big deal is. It's like just more resources. It's like, no. This is what's really going to happen. 3 minerals and 1 gas added makes a huge difference in play styles. Huge difference.
That concern, I think, was like one of the main reasons why that expansion was the way it was to try and break some of that up a little bit. And I don't know. It sucks. Like I said, I posted a thread in the chat, but I really have said all I have to say on that particular matter. Yeah. I think in that thread, but one of the things that I quickly want to touch on before we move on is the fact that I strongly hope any tournament organizer continue to use the GSL version, the competitive version, and not the ladder version. Simply because that's the better and more interesting version, but there is going to create a problem in that the vast majority of professional players or competitive players are practicing on ladder, and they're going to be practicing the significantly different version. So when you build your 4-base strategy and you go to this tournament version, it doesn't work, or it doesn't work as well. So you're just creating more problems there. I just wanted to make that point.
So let's move on to the last map down that changes to it, which is Metropolis. So I'm going to bring that up onto the desktop here. So here is the ladder version of Metropolis. Not a lot of people have probably seen this map unless they follow GSL. And there's one thing I have to almost point out immediately when I'm looking at this map. Is that...
Rocks.
Yeah, they took the creep tumor. I'm going to circle it. The original version of this map has a creep tumor on these island bases, and the only change that I've seen that they made to this map is they got rid of the creep tumor, and now we have the Dust and Browder destructible rocks blocking the island base.
This map is great now.
This is unbelievable.
See, the map making community figured out very, very quickly. Like we're talking like the first few months of the IC Cup map making team having existed, that destructible rocks on islands mean that those islands do not get taken. It doesn't happen. So, okay, let's just throw the islands out. They may as well not even be there now. Whereas before, they might have gotten taken, but now they're like, there's It's like I think I have a better chance of winning the $650 million lottery than taking one of those expansions in an actual game. So great job, Blizzard. I'm really happy about that change. I can't say that I'm surprised, because what else were they going to do? Let Terran lift over there, or leave the creep tumor on it and confuse the players?
Yeah, does that go back to that concept that they think they're going to confuse the players if they
Probably.
have a creep tumor on there?
Probably. It's the same reason like why there's no supply depots, because it might confuse the players. So
Right.
like Blizzard has the capacity to create a better solution for this. We've already identified it as a problem. So make a way for those islands not to get taken until something happens besides getting enough units to blow up a 2,000 health 3 armor unit. So it doesn't work. We figured it out. It does not work.
Right. Well, and
You
it's
have to
different for each race too. Destroying destructible rocks. I mean, for instance, for Zerg, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to have to load up roaches to reasonably take down the rocks in a reasonable amount of time to take the base. For Terran, it'll be a little less difficult, especially I think in TvP, because they're on Marine Marauder Medevac normally. So it would be not that difficult, I'd say, to take that island base for Terran. For Protoss, it's going to be kind of terrible because you have to either you basically have to build a warp prism. You're going to have to build a warp prism either way. But now,
Or Void Ray. Yeah.
right? But now, in addition to having to build a warp prism, well, you got to build a warp prism to get the probe over there. Right. So you have to build a warp prism to get the probe over there. But now it's not a matter of like, oh, if you have an OBS, you bring the OBS over, the probe kills the creep, and then it just sits there and waits to build a nexus. It's a matter of now you have to warp in a bunch of units and then ferry them back and forth in order to kill the rocks at a fast enough amount of time. I mean, like, Protoss, I could never see taking the island expansion. Zerg, probably never, because they're not going to drop a bunch of roaches and lings over there to clear that. Terran, I think, would be the only ones who are really going to be able to feasibly even take the expansion anymore, because if they're on Medevac Marine or Medevac Marine Marauder, they feasibly can clear the rocks quick enough to make it a takeable expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about Protoss Void Rays in the early game? They can just charge up on those rocks until they're maxed out and then attack. And even then, the more Void Rays they get, they can just charge up on it and continue to destroy those rocks. And now they can easily take it by just getting a warp prism.
Yeah, but it's
Whereas
two different
Terran,
tech paths,
they have
so I don't know.
to. Yeah, but for Terran, they have to commit an entire medevac or two full of units that are potentially supposed to be for harassing to break those rocks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just every race has to overcommit to try and take that base. Whereas, I mean, because if I make a bunch of Mutilas, I'm not going to go spend time breaking down those rocks and then try and Nidus my way over there. Like, it's a waste of my time. Because if he scans me and he sees a Spire, and I had just gotten my flock of Muta, I'm not going to go break the rocks. I got to go harass him before he starts stacking up on turrets. So it's just like, it's a waste of time. Yeah. And I just don't see those islands being taken anytime soon unless someone really has to overcommit to it. Just not seeing it happen.
Yeah. No matter how you look at it, the rock is not a good solution. They're just strictly put, it is not a good solution. There's a reason why when you look at a map like Central Mists, there's no rock on it. At one point, like in its original version, Kaniki had tested that version, or tested a version that had a rock on it. Like, we quickly figured out, I think this might have still been in the beta, that rocks were a bad idea. And, like, I don't know why you would ever try and be like, oh, it's a little bit better. Like, Super Uman, if he was here, I'm sure he would tell you that he has Princess Fortress, which is another beta map. He put destructible garages on there, which were just neutral buildings at 500 life, and those were a little bit better, but still not that good. You still had to commit something to them or take quite a long amount of time to actually deal with them. So,
well, Super Uman, he actually wrote me, and I mean, he wrote Creep Tomb around the island changed to 2,000 health power rocks, worst change ever. Now it's totally impossible to take the island because the game would be over before the rocks are destroyed. So the ladder map still doesn't have any islands.
Yeah.
See, I'm not against destructible rocks. I think that strategically and tactically, They can be used for very good purposes, like opening up a new path, like on Daybreak. It's
Yeah.
just I am getting so sick of Blizzard blocking bases. Like, okay, you can block a path into a base, but don't block the base itself. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna make me implode.
Yeah, and
And
there's actually
even
numerous
worse, they
destructible
block an
rocks on this
island
base.
base. They block an island base. First of
Like,
all, Terran, you're less prone to take an island that's open anyway.
Right.
And yet when you add rocks, you're making it impossible. It's like you might as well just remove it and just make
Yeah.
another Metalopolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was going to do anything with rocks on Isle expansion, like throw like a big rock and block half the resources or something. But again, too complicated. So throw that idea out of the window too.
or there's
And-
the way it was on Test Bug, where there was destructible rocks that were blocking bases, but the destructible rocks were up against the
they
minerals.
weren't blocking the gas.
Right, they
Like, you
weren't
could still
blocking
take
the
the gas.
gas, and they weren't blocking your ability to expand. So you could expand and then
Yeah.
kill the rocks as your expansion was going up.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too. Terran can actually still take it without destroying the rocks. They can just land their command center next to the rocks. And although their income might be substantially a little bit lower, they can still take that island for free.
hmm
So
Again, like all of this discussion has been done,
Yeah.
and we still haven't found a really viable solution. Like Broodor had one. It was great. You just stack a bunch of zero mineral patches, and then your probe or your drone or your SCV has to mine it for a little while. And then eventually it goes away. You can land, you can build, and you're good. It was a great solution. And it worked perfectly. But when you do that in StarCraft 2, just for everybody who's new to this or has been wondering why, when you put a mineral patch into StarCraft 2, in the editor it will show up as 0. It'll all work fine. But as soon as the map loads, it's going to check for that, and the mineral will just disappear instantly. So it doesn't work. And if you make the minerals like 1 or 2 or anything like that, a mule just one hits it, so it still doesn't work.
Yeah, and you end up essentially with the exact same scenario where you have to be able to mine multiple minerals to be able to block. I mean, technically, if you put like a 5 mineral there or something like that, I mean, a drone, a mule, or a probe could all mine it just as quickly and then be able to put a base down. I mean, there is that aspect to it, but it almost seems like Blizzard, it's like they know there's parts on maps that when they change them, like for instance Tal'Darim, that it'd be broken to be able to take that third quickly. So like, all right, well, we'll just throw these 3 armored destructible rocks down on top of it. Now it won't be so easy to take, and that'll fix the problem. Like it feels like that's kind of how it actually ends up working out. That they're like, well, this base breaks the game in Tal'Darim at 8 minerals and 2 gas. So maybe if we just throw some rocks down here, it'll slow Terran and Protoss or Zerg down enough that it won't be a totally broken game if somebody fast expands to this third now, because there's these awesome destructible rocks in the way to slow you down. And it's just, I don't know, it feels like, well, if that's the issue, why did you change the map in the first place and break it?
It's very much a 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing.
Yeah.
Blizzard's done an excellent job adding custom maps and making the game better overall, and then they bork all of the maps that they add just because it's too complicated.
Yeah. So let's get to some general thoughts about Metropolis, though, before we move on here. Just what you guys think about the map overall. I know in the games that I've seen in the GSL on it, it looked like a pretty interesting map. It's definitely a massive rush distance on this map. I mean, like, extremely massive. You can't get close by ground spawns. I'm going to bring it up. And what I mean by close by grounds is you can't get this spawn where this would be the rush path, ramp to ramp. So you can't get that on the map. So I know some players are going to look at this and go, oh no, this looks like this is a terrible rush distance.
all over again.
Yeah. No, you can't get that rush distance. You actually, I'd actually even have to use my tool and zoom out a little bit here to get the whole map onto the screen. But the rush distance is actually, if you spawned here, you're going to be having to go all the way across the map to either this base or conversely to this other long distance base. So your opponents can be always in one of those longer distance spawn positions. So it's a huge rush distance. I would definitely say getting on 3, potentially even 4 bases, maybe even 5 bases is going to be quite common on this map. and then you're going to typically see players probably fighting more or less over, I think less so those island expansions, but more so these two center expansions in the middle of the map.
I don't even see them fight over that. It's usually somebody gets to 5 bases, and they just have so much money that they can just like throw units at them endlessly, and somebody gets tipped over, or like one player defends and counters and wins.
Yeah.
But like that really is the start and finish of like the whole late game on that map. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but just to refresh everyone's memory. What I had said last time was any map where you need to block a spawn position is just inherently bad. It's a shitty concept to start off with right from the get-go. So that said, like as a map maker, I'm not too much of a fan of this map. It's going to be fun to play on, just because I like to play macro styles on ladder, because 99% of the people I meet on ladder can't deal with like me playing past 12 minutes. They lose in the late game, partially because I'm playing Protoss. And Protoss Deathball is really good, but like from a spectator and commentator point of view, and like I don't really enjoy watching games on it too much because it's very slow. Nothing significant happens until everybody gets their 4th and 5th base up and running, I think.
I just don't see this map being any different than Metalopolis. I mean, it's like you get your 5 bases, and whoever has the bigger ground army, the other person's probably just going to go air, because they can just go around the sides and start doing drops and all that kind of stuff. And normally players will be forced to pull back and try and fend off that air, or they'll just do a base trade. In which case, the one who has the biggest ground army wins, as Prodigy said. You know, and when you're on 5 bases, maybe 6 or so, it just emphasizes that even more. So I just don't see it being any different than Metalopolis, and even more so, I still get confused between the names. Like, well, there's Metalopolis and then there's Metropolis, and it's just like, well, I can't choose between the
They're
two.
confusing players. What were they thinking?
Why are they both in the map? I have actually heard, like before Metalopolis came out, players just call it Metropolis because that's a name that you've heard. Like, I live in the New York Metropolis, which actually means they live in like Brooklyn or something.
Yeah.
But you know, like it's a logical English word. Metalopolis, not so much. But now there's both of them. If you're worried about confusing your players, you guys are doing a great job.
Players are going to be confused, man. I mean, I'm already confused. Metropolis, Metalopolis. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're the same map, right?
Yeah. That being said, I think Metropolis is like a strictly better version of Metalopolis, obviously it being inspired by it.
Yeah.
So I will happily play Metropolis over Metal. But again, like the same as Metalopolis, I don't think it adds very much to a spectator or caster point of view. The games on it aren't particularly interesting. I know some people are like, "Wow, Broodlords, this game's epic, man!" And that's all fine and good, but again, back to the opportunity cost thing. There are better and more interesting ways to have your map get to the late game, and I don't think this is the best of them.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very heavy macro map. It's going to be very... it's the games in this have always felt kind of Terminus-esque to me.
Yeah.
The games feel like they play a lot similar to Terminus. Not quite as bad, I think, as Calm Before the Storm, but definitely very Terminus type of a feel to this map, where it's like... You're definitely going to get a pretty quick 2 to 3 base out of most players on this map, because the rush distance is just so darn large that it's really difficult to actually try and like press your opponent on this map, especially in the cross spawn positions. Like the rush distance is absolutely ridiculous on this map. I've watched several games. I think I was watching the GSTL, one of the semifinals, and I don't remember who was playing, but they were playing on this map. And it was insanity, the size of this map, and how even rushes just were not that great. I think it was Prime versus FXO that I was watching, where the Terran player tried to do like a 2-base like Marine SCV all in, and the Zerg player had so much distance and time to prepare for the push that by the time it got there, he just absolutely crushed the tar out of it. And went on to win the game, just macroing up behind it, because he could build like 10 or 15 drones in between any push. So yeah, I feel like this map could lend towards that, but we'll have to see. What we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna take a really fast break again, real quick, and then we're gonna come back with some final closing thoughts on the map pool as a whole. I know we've been really critical of the map pool as a whole, but we're gonna give our overall opinions of the map pool moving into Ladder Season 7, and then we're gonna be doing Q&A immediately after that. So if you guys have any questions, start getting those wrapped up in your mind. I know a couple people have already posted a few questions already, but if you could either repost questions you thought of earlier, or if you have any new questions, go ahead and post those in chat, and then we'll get to those along with our final thoughts on the map pool when we come back, guys, in just 1 second. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome back to Mappers Episode 3, where we've been discussing the Season 7 map pools a bunch. So there's some other stuff we were talking about while we were on break for a quick second, but we're not going to get into that today. We might get into that on a different show. But now we're going to just kind of move into getting everybody's overall thoughts and opinions on the Season 7 ladder pool and how you guys actually feel about the maps as a whole, the map pool as a whole. If you need me to go over the entire map pool, I can. But it's 10 maps. You're going to have 3 downvotes, so it means you're going to have to play on 7 of these maps. So what do you guys feel about just the map pool as a whole, the direction Blizzard's going with the map pool moving into Season 7?
I think...
Go ahead.
I think that Blizzard has come a very long way. I think that they've done a lot of good things and a lot of improvements. And their direction is good, but they're just not executing it well enough. It's like, well, okay, we'll add GSL maps to the ladder, but we're going to alter them. We're going to add rocks to the islands, then we're going to make the center half bases full bases. And it's just like, okay, your direction is right, but you're doing completely idiotic things. So I think it was what Prodigy said earlier. It's one step forward, 2 steps backwards. You know, I think they're just being a little too on the safe side for new players. It only takes a game or two to realize you can walk through water, or that you have to just destroy a creep tumor with 1 hit. It doesn't. They're overemphasizing that players will be confused. But I think overall, changes aside, the map pool is much better. I think it's one of the best that we've had. I just think Blizzard needs to stop, screwing around with it so much, and realize that Daybreak is one of the most balanced maps, and they should just leave it.
Yeah, it's very much I don't fix it if it ain't broken. I definitely agree. I'm overjoyed that they're continuing on the path of adding custom and community maps, a ladder map pool. The changes that they're making here are relatively unprecedented, given that Core Hall Compound and Cloud Kingdom which were added in Season 6, didn't have that many significant alterations made to them, excuse me. Tal'Darim being like the bad example, and again in that post I made about Daybreak, which was like basically me saying I'm really worried about these guys doing it because you did it before on Tal'Darim Altar. This was of course before they had confirmed that they were in fact changing it, but like Iron Man said, and like I said before that, it's one step forward, it's two steps back. Every time they do something right, they open a new box of problems, and I think it's completely unnecessary, really, because like the ladder map pool is like as something, or as has been made very clear, is not really something that the community has a lot of control over. Because if you would ask basically anybody in the map making community, it's like, what do you guys think about making this expansion a full expansion instead of this? Everyone would be like, no, that is just completely stupid. So I'm very, very sad and disappointed to see that this is the direction that Blizzard wants to take their game, because it's very, very, very limiting on what the things that I can do as a map maker are going to be if I want to ever see one of my maps get into the ladder map pool, which is obviously one of like the biggest goals that any map maker has, because you find your maps in the ladder, it's great, it's awesome, but if your map is gonna get butchered like that, then that kind of sucks. And if I have to butcher my map right from the get-go, then like I really have very, very, very little wiggle room as far as like what I can do to keep my maps interesting, fresh, new, innovative, etc. That's really disappointing for the future. I hope that this is not something that they continue to do, or it's something that they acknowledge and change. There's still a little while to go before the ladder season starts, so I have a tiny bit of faith that maybe they'll change it before it starts, but I do have my doubts, obviously. As for adding or making the map pool 10 maps, I think it's got some good and bad things about it. Like I said before, I think one of Blizzard's goals here is to broaden everything so that, because now there's so many different tournaments with different map pools, like for example DreamHack has Vicious and Frigid Pass in it, there's a lot of different maps that players need to be familiar with now. And like if you listen to State of the Game, this is something that like InControl and Tyler will complain about quite often, and understandably so. The ladder is a great place to go and practice, so having a bigger ladder map pool is great. Again, I need to urge any tournament organizers not to use ladder versions of their map in any circumstance whatsoever. Use the tournament version. They're there for a reason. And, even if they're significantly different, like, don't fall under that trap. If you use Daybreak LE over Daybreak or GSL Daybreak, like, you're just throwing away quality for no good reason. So, with that in mind, I think that really is all I have to say on the matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make some really good points. I mean, even from a commentator's perspective, and I mean, obviously I play on ladder as well. I mean, you get really excited when you see them saying, "Hey, we're gonna add tournament maps. We're gonna do this whole new thing. We're going in this direction," and then they add these tournament maps where it's like it's kind of a little bit of a letdown almost, because by the time they actually add the maps in to the ladder pool, it's no longer an actual tournament map. It's a ladder map, because they've potentially broken the map's balance, or they've completely changed the way the map's going to play, which is bad for people who are excited about that. I mean, they've had such a pressure by the community to add tournament maps, because players love seeing how some of these custom maps play out on the in these tournaments that they watch, GSL, MLGs, whatever. So they love all these maps, and they love how they play out with the pro players, and they want to play on that map. And then Blizzard's like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't think you guys can take the way this map is built. So we're going to make a couple of little adjustments, and the map's going to play totally differently, but it will at least look like that map, so you can feel like you're playing on that map. And it's like, but overall, I mean, I think I agree a lot with the sentiment that the direction they're going in, I think, is good. It's a good thing that they're not making their own maps anymore, because otherwise we'd still be playing on nothing but Entombed Valleys and stuff like that. But I think overall, I feel better about the Season 7 ladder pool than I have about any previous map pool. I just, like you guys, would like to see them give the players a little bit more credit to have a brain in their head and be able to play on a map that's maybe a little bit more complicated, or at least try it once. I mean, for the love of God, add one of these maps that maybe have a reduced mineral base or something like that into the map pool. Let the players try and play it, and if you see everybody on Earth complaining about this map, then maybe you've proven your point now, and you can, do what you do with the rocks and the 8 mineral 2 gas things to every single map. But at least give the players the benefit of the doubt that they might actually be able to figure it out, play intelligently on the map, and have fun doing it. Because it's going to be different. It's a different experience. They're always talking about how they want to give players a different experience. But are you really giving players a different experience when you always dumb things down back to very minimalistic concepts that make the maps play very, very derpy-derpy, I mean, it's not really difficult for you to figure out how to take bases on a map like Daybreak. Now it's like, well, 1, 2, 3. I put my army at 4, and I build a planetary fortress on 4.
Great. That's your strategy.
And now you've taken out all of the complexity that they half-based their head in. It was like, well, if I can't really defend well right now, I don't really have map control, I'll take the lesser base because I can defend it better, but I'm not going to be able to sit on this base forever, so eventually I got to figure out how to take that corner base, or maybe, I have really good map control right now, so I'll take that corner base, and I'll take that lesser base later, and it just adds a lot more dynamic to the play that I think a lot of players have been complaining is missing from the game in general when you compare it to Brood War play and stuff like that. And I mean, that's where you got the whole fewer resource basis thing that we had talked about spawned off of, is people trying to make the play more interesting. Less macro up a giant army, slam it together into the other guy's army, and then the game's over. People don't enjoy that as much as I think Blizzard thinks people are enjoying that. I mean, that'd be the only thing. I mean, players, I don't think in the community would be being so vocal about the tournament maps and such forth if they didn't want the game to be more complex, interesting to play.
Yeah, I think Blizzard. I have high hopes that Blizzard will learn something from Season 7, because they will probably see the dramatic change in the way that the playstyles are carried out between GSL Daybreak and Daybreak LE. And I think that if or when they see that dramatic difference, then maybe they might learn something. But it's very clear for quite some time that they want to change the ladder map pool to more tournament-oriented maps, but they don't create ladder maps for tournaments. So it makes perfect sense why they would take a tournament map and make a ladder version of it. But as Prodigy said, it's very scary for tournaments because pro players do one thing on GSL Daybreak, and now they can't really carry that out as efficiently on LE. So the question is, which one are they going to use? And so you might not be able to see those great games on LE that you would see on GSL Daybreak. So I think the whole game itself is kind of pinned up on the wall right now for Season 7, because it's like, well, here's some great maps, but now they are completely different. And how is the metagame going to work on these maps now? So it's really going to tell a lot about Blizzard. It's going to tell a lot about how map balance should be carried out and things like that. So I'm excited for the new changes. It's just that I'm a little scared to see what Daybreak is going to turn into, because I don't want people to look at Daybreak and be like, this is the most broken map now, when clearly it's not meant to be. So I think Blizzard might learn something from Season 7. I'm not sure, because they keep track of all the stats on all the servers. So I guess we'll have to just wait and see.
Yep.
Hopefully.
All right, well, I think it's about time that we move on to our Q&A segment. So anybody who's been watching along in chat, if you haven't posted your questions, make sure you post your questions now. I'm going to actually get to a question that we actually get asked a decent amount. I know you guys have heard this question over and over again. So let's just address this question right off the bat. I believe it was Sumadin who posted it, asking about the neutral supply depots. And I think this will be a pretty brief thing to talk about, but a lot of people talk about how when you look at the ladder pool versus the tournament maps, pretty much every single tournament map has the neutral supply depot, and the ladder maps don't. I know, of course, that I think that a lot comes down to the confusing players things, but I'm kind of interested what you guys' thoughts are.
So, let me paint a scenario for you. You're a new Zerg player. You're hanging out on your new bronze account. You figured out some of the hotkeys. You're making some drones, and you just saw a GSL match where somebody goes 15 hatch. So you're getting ready to do that. Then somebody makes 3 pylons in front of your base. How confused are you going to be? Like, if you're a new player, this is like, oh, there's already 3 pylons here? What do? I guess I better make a spawning pool and lose the game. Like, new... Sumaden, I see what you're saying in chat, and I'm going to get to that, but, I just want to make this point quickly. Like, Blizzard, this is not the right idea. And, but before we explain this a little bit too much, I want to preface this by saying that, this is something that, we have talked to Diamond about, so that he can move it on to Robert Simpson, who is a commentator and, of course, the esports manager or director or something like that at Blizzard.
Yeah.
So there are plans to implement something to fix this problem in Heart of the Swarm. So...
Is there? Because I didn't hear that.
In theory, I think. I don't remember what the final verdict was, but I would imagine that's reached... Like, I'm pretty sure I remember him saying that, like, Robert Simpson has been made aware of this, and he's talking with people. And like, if Blizzard doesn't try to come up with something about that, that'll just be blown away by how incompetent that is. But anyway, the reason you don't see them on ladder is
mini destructible rocks.
That's literally what they need. Is like mini destructible rocks that are pathable. But anyway, the reason you don't see them on ladder maps is because it's confusing. It's confusing. These are the words of Blizzard. It's confusing to new players. Because you walk out of your base and you see a random Terran building. You don't see that it has a color, but if you don't know that white color means that it's a neutral unit, then it might as well be confusing to you. You might freak out and think you're getting cheesed or something. So that is the reason why they don't use it. Is the same reason they put rocks on expansions and make their expansions 8 minerals, 2 gas, or get rid of creep tumors and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is something that the ESV map team has been experimenting with for hours at one point. A couple months ago, we sat in our little chat channel on Skype, and we just talked for hours about how we can come up with a replacement supply depot, because for whatever reason Blizzard does not just use a neutral depot. We just don't know whether they don't want to confuse players and be like, oh my gosh, he's trying to wall me in as a Terran player, like like to make this short, we've come up with probably like 10 different ways to come up with a replacement, and they either look very awkward or they're not distinguishable enough to where it's like, oh, that's a pylon blocker at the bottom of my ramp. Blizzard has noted to me personally that you can put textures there that mark unbuildable area, but that's even more confusing for newer players than a neutral depot, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how a texture is a texture. Like, most players don't care much about the textures, just that it's clear. If they go down to the bottom of the ramp and they see a little rock texture, they're not going to distinguish that and notice it and be like, oh, that's where the neutral supply depot is supposed to be, and that's a replacement. Like, they're not going to care about that. They're going to look completely past that. A neutral depot is distinguishable. You can see it. You can feel it. You can attack it if you want. I don't care. That's why it's just so easy if you just put it in. And yet, you know, we've like I said, we've tried to find a lot of replacements, and they're just not noticeable enough, not distinguishable enough, or they just don't make sense.
Nothing is as elegant as a supply depot at this point. Subin in chat right now is just elaborating on his question a little bit.
I see that.
Do the depots affect a balance, or does it become tournaments, short games? It's a bit of both. Obviously, a tournament match that ends because somebody made 3 pylons is not very exciting for pretty much anybody involved.
It's also very hard to block.
It's very hard to block. It's not... It's just dumb. Like, it shouldn't be in the game. It's like having an infinite combo in a fighting game. Like, it should be fixed. So, in the event that it's not fixed, you need to come up with some kind of way to prevent it from happening. And it's... Well, it's not something you want to see.
I see where Sumaden's trying to go with this question. I think I can maybe answer it fairly succinctly. The thing about the not having a neutral supply depot, I understand, like, you would say, well, maybe Blizzard just thinks it's like cheese. Well, if Blizzard just thought it was cheese, they wouldn't be looking for solutions to it. Because here's the problem is, especially for players like Zerg players and whatnot, a lot of races aren't very good, especially the Zerg race, I would say, and this is where this really becomes the biggest issue, I think, aren't very good at removing pylons and bunkers from the bottom of the ramp in the early stages of the game. They just don't have the tools necessary to remove those. So when somebody does say they're going to go for a cannon rush, if they throw 3 pylons down at the end of the ramp and put a cannon behind it, it's going to take you forever to clear those pylons. And the game's essentially already over at that point. Same thing where if a Terran player runs up and drops 2 bunkers at the bottom of a ramp to block it and split the 2 hatcheries in half. Essentially, as soon as they drop those 2 bunkers, now the game's essentially ended once again. You're not going to be able to break that reasonably, is the problem, versus a 6 pool where if a player puts a cannon down, they've invested 150 minerals and now it's taken care of. You have to invest a lot more. No, there's definitely some maps you can still block with 2 bunkers, so that would be a fallacy. I just had it happen to me on ladder the other day on, I think, Shakiris or somewhere. Somebody double bunker blocked me and I couldn't get out of my base. So it's such a good cheese that's why tournaments have all put those neutral supply depots in, because they don't want games to end in an imbalanced sort of way where the other player, there was really nothing they could do. If they didn't have a drone going back and forth at their base, or if somebody ran up with a marine and kills the drone and then throws down the bunkers, then it becomes a luck game, right? Because when the links come out, either they can kill the SCVs in time to stop the rush, or they can't kill the SCVs in time. And that's really luck-based because the SCVs don't have a predictable pathing on it. Same with pylons. Once the pylons are up, the Zerglings are never going to kill the pylons down before they can throw down cannons and more pylons and such forth, and it's going to be game over. And that's the reason why you see tournaments using those neutral supply depots, because it's imbalanced slightly in favor of Terran and Protoss to be able to block Zerg like that. So tournaments just said, well, we'll throw a neutral supply depot in there, and then this can't happen, and then we don't have to worry about that. People can still do 2 racks bunker rushes and stuff, but they can't stop the other player from trying to defend it. Is essentially what happened with that. So hopefully that answers your question there, Sumidin. So that you understand that it's not really on a level with the 6 pool. And for a lower level player, that's actually more miserable because they're very easy to execute.
Yeah.
I think
There's
lower
no
level
micro
player,
involved.
yeah.
Like, I have to right click my probe over there. I need to have pressed BF at my base, and then I need to make 3 pylons in a row. And I just have to make sure I put them in the right spot, which I might goof up one game and figure it out the next time. Because I have a brain, Blizzard.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, I think if anything, for lower level players, it's even worse. I watch lower level games every now and then just to see how the balance works at the lower level. Like I'll watch some gold player streaming or something, and I see people die to that type of stuff just constantly at lower levels because they don't scout as well. They don't patrol drones at the bottom of the ramp, and somebody double bunkers them, it's game over.
Yeah.
You know,
You know, honestly, like I don't even experience it that much. I've been through bronze, silver, gold, platinum. I've been on the verge of getting into diamond, and I'm a Zerg player. I've been Zerg since the second half of season 1. I have been pylon blocked successfully once, and that was like season 2. And
yeah, it doesn't happen as often at the higher levels.
I think I've been pylon blocked in general like 5 times, but they just were not successful. So I don't even see it that much, and I can understand why maybe they don't want to add a depot because it's not that common. But it's common for a lot of other people, so I can understand that.
Yeah, I think typically from what I've seen, it's stuff like that's a lot more common at the lower levels, where just cheese is a lot more common in general. See a lot more cannon rushes, bunker rushes, stuff like that. You see it more often. At the higher levels, I don't think you see it that often because players are trying to get better at playing the game in a tournament style of way. Once you get towards that Diamond, Masters, Grandmaster levels, people are trying to play more tournament style games. So I think you see it less often because there's not as many people who just want to win a ladder game at those levels. They want to actually play the game properly for if they enter a tournament. So they're less inclined to do stuff like that, although it does still occasionally happen. I mean, I've gotten bunker rushed like that once in the last, I think, 3 weeks. You know,
Yeah.
but it still felt terrible because as soon as he started building those 2 bunkers, the SCV stayed on the outside of the bunkers. My Zerglings hatch, and I can't kill the SCVs, and it's just game over at that point.
Yeah, it's StarCraft is a game where luck, like they've made StarCraft 2, like they took a lot of the luck factor out of it. Like they don't have Reavers and Dragoons with stupid pathing running all over the map and stuff like that. So like the only luck factor in the game at this point really should be spawns, and something like that is just it's kind of lame. And yeah, I think we kind of beat this horse to death at this point.
Yeah, gonna check here to see if anybody else has any other questions in the chat right now. I thought I saw another one earlier, but I'm trying to find it. Somebody had asked a question earlier, and it was a decent question, but now it's like it's eluding my mind now.
I think I might have saw it, but I don't remember it either.
If they're still watching, repost your question if you had posted it. But we are starting to run a little bit long, so if I can't find it soon, I might just have us wrap up since we've had a kind of crazy day in the first place here. Scrolling here.
I'm looking too. I found the pylon block question, but I'm not finding the other one here.
Any thoughts on the discussions regarding the DH map pool? Oh, the DreamHack map pool. Yeah,
DreamHack
I guess we
map
can
pool is
talk
great.
about that for a second.
The DreamHack map pool is great because I believe I'm like 99% sure that this is the first major event that I've got a map of my own into.
And what map is that, Prodigy?
That map is ESV Vicious, and fantastic. It's one of the first maps that I tried to make not super experimental, and look, it gets into a major map tournament or major map pool. So that's awesome. I'm pretty excited about that. Noni was a little bit disappointed at how big the map pool is, where they only have 2 vetoes and I think 10 maps. And I don't quite agree with the size of their map pool, but we'll see how it goes. I definitely commend DreamHack.
So it's 2 vetoes and 10 maps, so it's actually one worse than Ladder.
Yeah, and the maps are randomly decided.
And
but,
this is ESV Vicious. I have it up on the screen now, by the way.
Yeah.
Prodigy, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but you realize that your map is probably only going to be played like once or twice in this tournament.
Probably, yeah.
That's the only downside as a map maker when you get a map in any tournament. Because I remember in the Korean Weekly when I first got Ohana in, and it was played like once every Korean Weekly. So and it was like
only
a 2
gets
racks.
played as a starting map, which like Ithaca had the same problem in the Korean Weekly, and it's like a lot of the maps have to get their start that way, where it's like players are forced to have to play on them. That's a problem or a solution that I figured out like very, very, very quickly in the betas. Nobody's going to play new maps unless they're forced to, and it's kind of a sad truth, but like very, very few people are going to be like, oh, this map's in the tournament.
So this map does have close spawns though for the DreamHack.
Yeah,
you can spawn in any of the 4 positions.
Yeah, I will never make a reflection symmetry map where I have to block a position.
I gotta be honest though, it's a really beautiful map. I think it's similar to Antigua, but it might actually play out a bit better than Antigua. It's just time will tell, but I think that it's a really great map, and I think that it has a lot of potential.
Well, thank you. You're very kind.
The only thing that actually stands out to me is that, like, I'm looking at the top positions right now. If one player spawns here and another player spawns here, that 4th man, it's going to be a lot easier for this guy over here than it is going to be for this guy over here.
I want you, this is an argument that I've got a lot, I want you to look very, very closely at the Zelnaga Towers. The Zelnaga Towers are the key on this one. It's something that I think most people don't pick up on like right away. Both of them are, technically speaking, relatively equally accessible, provided that you are playing the map a little more tactically rather than just, I have 3 bases and I park my army somewhere.
I guess I'm curious why you didn't just make the map come straight, the ramp come straight out at these ends rather than hook.
because that's boring
Oh.
and easy. There's nothing interesting about that when you think about it. The original design actually had rocks on those ramps, but I thought,
Yeah.
nah, I'm going to open this up, let players figure it out
Yeah.
to see if it's
I mean,
a
it
bad
depends on
problem.
races, obviously.
It depends on races, but
Because like a
the
Terran player
general
could
idea.
feasibly in this spawn take this base as a fourth. This
Boy, the
the
more I
close
look at
base.
it, the more I realize those towers are ridiculously important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
if
I
you
mean,
don't
you need
realize
those
that
towers.
if you don't realize that the towers are like a big part of the map, you're just going to get bodied. You're going to get killed really, really quickly.
Like, you
And
need control of at least two of them. Like, you have to have control of at least two of them.
yeah, and that's real. That's going to be a really big focal point of the map. And one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the maps that exist now is a lot of the conflict exists around just expansions. Like you're just attacking into a base, you're attacking into a base, you're attacking into a base. You're not trying to control a terrain on the map. I think
Right.
Cloud Kingdom is probably like one of the few examples that I think does this really well. Ohana to a slightly lesser extent, but still a good one, or even Belshir Beach for that matter, where controlling the Xel'Naga towers is very important. And of course, Daybreak is another great example of that. So I guess I've completely put my own foot in my mouth at this point. But
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll
Um,
see how it plays out if anybody uses it at DreamHack. Has this map been getting play in the ESV TV Korean weeklies yet?
it's going to be used in
It's
the first week at this point.
it's
Tropical,
guaranteed
Tropical
1 week.
Bob right now saying a big problem would be Terran sieging above the third. Well, that happened because you weren't watching the tower, and he just walked tanks up there. So, like, and you don't even need siege tanks. Like any race can do that. Those minerals are far enough that a roach can hit them. So
Yeah,
it's
so
not like a
you kind of
balance.
created the map with the emphasis being on holding the Xel'Nagas in the center,
Yeah,
essentially.
and like playing away from your expansion is playing a little bit riskier, and like it's a map that I think punishes mistakes and like poorly executed tactics a little bit harder than a lot of others.
I'm actually
And I think I
trying
might
to
get a little flack from that, but
approximate the vision of the Xel'Naga towers. The bottom's a little off, probably, but if you're looking at the top, you're going to probably have about
yeah, you got it
that
right.
vision of
I
what's
think
going on up
that
there.
it's okay. I think that it has a lot of emphasis on positional map control, but I think that this map is going to produce
Ooh.
quite a bit of turtle play. A Terran player takes 3 or 4 bases, takes 2 towers, and then that's his macro play right there. And he has all of the ground flanks. And
You made a
that's
point
basically
about
just-
medevac drops up to that third, too, potentially being
Yeah.
problematic. Tank.
Yeah, there's actually LOS blockers in the corner of those. So, I mean, obviously you won't be able to use them if you're flying over the minerals, but
Oh
there
no,
are
he was
ways
talking about that
that
third. That third where he's talking about sieging up the tanks. He's like, well, what if the Terran
Oh.
just loads up a bunch of tanks and Marines into 2 or 3 medevacs and just bypasses the towers and drops them there?
Well, what happens if Mutas fly up there, or if a Phoenix flies up
Hey,
there?
I was just making the guy's point. Tropical Bob made a
Yeah, I
good
know,
point.
I know.
He made a good point that your Xel'Naga towers don't matter then.
They don't. There are ways to circumvent them, and
Yeah.
like that's obviously Xel'Naga towers are supposed to have ways to circumvent them.
Yeah.
This map, in order to circumvent them, you need to have air or take control of them.
Although I think
Um,
for the way this map is designed, the natural progression for thirds, if you had a player here and here, is going to be this base and this base and probably this tucked away base, and then it's going to be this base over here for this player anyways. So I don't think your third would actually be that base anyways, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, you just go the opposite direction and hold like the accompanying Xel'Naga watchtower. It's
Yeah.
just you have to position your army slightly differently, but like the space and the distances you need to control are relatively the same.
But it
Well,
should,
if it's close spawn, then it becomes a battle over who controls the watchtower between the two.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And
I'm okay
it'll
with
probably matter a little bit what racial matchups you get in a scenario like that too. But it should be interesting. It should be interesting to see if any of the players actually play on it. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Just because it's such a new map, a lot of players are gonna be like, "Well, I got how many downvotes? I've never seen this map before. It's definitely getting downvoted." But it could be something that a more brave player would use too. They'd be like, "You know what? I don't know this map, but I don't think my opponent knows this map either. So I'm gonna just roll the dice. I got this little map picture. It looks interesting. I've got an idea. All right, let's just go with it, and let's try and pick this map, and hopefully he doesn't downvote it." So you never know. It could end up. I'm sure it'll end up getting some tournament play, there is some brave players out there who will, I'm sure, pick it up, and it should be interesting. So, good question though, added about the DreamHack. Is there any thoughts on any of the other maps in the map pool
There
to
is
answer
a
Glashow's
Frigid
question?
Pass. Frigid Pass is the other new one.
Frigid Pass. Let's see if I can
Yeah,
actually.
it's the snow one.
I'm about to give
That map looks pretty
Google
cool too.
some
I think
It's
advertising.
it's a really cool map. I think.
It is a cool map. It's just a little scary right now because that map has not been played like at all. And
And who's this
originally,
map by?
what's that?
This map is by
That's by
Time
Time
Twister.
Twister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want to give credit to the map maker before I bring it up onto the screen here.
It's just Time Twister originally made it as an experimental map, from what he tells us. So it's really hard to say like what this map is going to produce because from the looks of it, it looks pretty. It looks relatively easy to turtle up on 4 bases and grab your little corner because the airspace around your corner of the map is so. It's just not that favorable for air units and harassing. So I think Zerg is going to have a lot of hard time trying to get back into your natural and maybe your third or your fourth or something like that. So I don't think airplay is going to be too great on this map, but I think that
Now, is this map, is there any closed off spawns on this map, or is it spawn anywhere? Because I
I don't
see
know.
he put destructible rocks in between the close spawns, so I'm thinking you could probably spawn close spawns in this map. Because I don't see any other reason to have those there.
I don't think it would be good because considering how close the mains are to each other.
Yeah, I wonder if this plays more like Metropolis.
Like that's just ridiculously close to have 2 mains next to each other and enable close spawn. Like you can literally just take blink stalkers, blink down in the middle between the mains, and then blink back up on his base. It looks like you could. So I don't think close spawns is enabled for this one. I just don't see it happening like with those little possibilities like that.
That's my stalker now. He's got a
It's
shield.
unpathable, Seth said in the chat. So, but either way, like it's just so close that Terrans can easily go for a one-on-one and do way better of a timing Banshee push than you could on like Metalopolis.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if how this map plays if it gets used.
Yeah,
Does anybody know how many downvotes there are for the DreamHack map pool? I don't.
There's
There's
two
two.
vetoes.
And is there any other new maps in that map pool, or are these
These
the
are
only two new
these
maps?
are the only two. They're also using Cloud Kingdom and Ohana, and then on top of that, there's Metalopolis, Antigua Shipyard, Metropolis, and Daybreak. If I recall
So I think it's
correctly.
entirely possible with both these maps in the pool that we're gonna at least see some of them, because there's gonna be somebody who doesn't want to play on
Well-
Metalopolis or something like that, so they won't be
Yeah.
able to downvote both of these. So it'll leave it potentially open.
They're
I'm
using a blind veto system. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but I believe it's like you just veto your 2 maps like before the map pool is even chosen, and then like the map order is chosen at random after that. So, like it's definitely possible that Frigid Pass or Vicious gets picked first simply because of the random fact, and I think players are going to be more inclined to use their vetoes on maps that they know they're bad on. Especially the ones who are more confident with their ability to adapt to new things.
And this is the one that's going to be DreamHack Stockholm, I believe.
Yes.
I'm actually bringing it up here on the Wikipedia. I'm going to bring it to main screen. You go ahead and keep talking. I'm going to actually look and see if I can see their map veto system here.
Just a quick comment. Really, I got to give a lot of credit to DreamHack for using the GSL
Yeah.
versions of Daybreak and Metropolis. Thank God. DreamHack is such a prestigious tournament these days, and I'm really glad that they made that choice right there. Considering that this is in mid-April, it looks like, and so by then all these latter versions will be out. So they're still going to use the GSL version. So that's a lot of credit to them.
And they're using the cross spawn only version of Antigua as well.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of has been floating around is that Shakuras and Frigid Pass are way too similar as opposed to Vicious and Antigua. And they're like, well, it's like you have 4 maps and 2 of them each are like both the same. Like,
Well,
There's
same
not
with
enough variety and
Metropolis and
things like that.
Metalopolis too.
yeah. So I don't know how that is going to be viewed by spectators. It's just that's a little weird to me, but because I don't know,
It's a
it's a little
unique
weird.
problem to have. I don't think we've ever seen so many maps that are so similar in the same map pool before. So it's going to be an interesting thing to look at from like a map maker's point of view and from somebody who looks at like map pools in combination with maps like as a whole. I'm definitely interested to see how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm excited to see this map pool. I know for a fact that Vicious and Frigid Pass are not going to be played on a whole lot, but if they do, it's going to be really exciting to see how those turn out. I just, as much as I support and love my own teammates, I have to be blunt. Like, you know what? I don't
No,
expect
it's
too many games to be played on it, but I'm just really excited to see DreamHack finally step it up and start tagging their own maps and things like that instead
yeah,
of just using MLG and all that kind of jazz.
yeah,
So I think DreamHack has made a huge improvement. Um, and this is and if you guys who are tuning in, if you guys are really skeptical of it and if you guys are really against some of these maps that they're using, you got to just give them credit. They're a very prestigious tournament. I think they know what they're doing. They've been talking about it for a long time, and this is something that they want to try. Um, and you know what? Everyone makes mistakes. If it doesn't turn out to be good, then the tournament's not going to be wiped off the face of the planet. They're just going to make adjustments and then go from there. So I think everyone needs to just kind of relax and chill out.
Yep. So we'll definitely see. I think though, let's wrap things up here. Some really good questions from the audience. Thank you very much, everybody who gave us some questions today. Sorry that we had a little bit of a late start today. Technical problems along with car troubles can do that to you on occasion.
yeah.
So hopefully everything will be a little bit smoother next week. We'll start right at 4 Eastern. I can almost assure you it will because I'm now no longer going to be willing to go anywhere like within 3 hours of the start time of the show. So, anyways, let's go ahead and do our closing shout outs and stuff. Let's wrap this up. So, go ahead and Iron Man, why don't you kick us off?
Um, just follow me on my Twitter, which is right below my big, massive chin at IronManSC2. I will tweet usually when events start happening or if I am going to do map streaming. If I'm not really doing anything at all, I'm just not going to tweet. I don't see the point. Um, keep supporting fewer resources per base. We got a lot of great players that are joining in. Um, let's see, we got guys like Gonzi from Complexity, Illusion, Axe, Slav, Vibe, all these different types of really great players. So be sure to tune in for that. Keep supporting it. We'll see how that turns out. Big shout out to ESV for just taking some clutch hits, with DreamHack and the big changes that are coming with the Korean Weekly and everything like that. So, uh, yeah, your turn, Prod.
Obviously follow me on Twitter. As you can see it below my laggy chin, which I've been goofing around with from time to time throughout this podcast. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I know we've definitely gone a little bit longer than we usually do, but passionate stuff to talk about here. Blizzard messing with my toys and messing with everybody's toys. It's a good way to get everybody riled up. So again, thank you guys for watching this show all the way through, watching past episodes. I hope that you continue to stick with us in the future. And again, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Be sure to check out ESV Vicious as well as ESV Deception on Team Liquid. You just go on there, search ESV. You'll see all of the ESV maps. There's plenty of other maps from the other members of the map making team as well. So a lot of really great stuff to check out. But check that one out, and be sure to tune into DreamHack so you can see some games on that. And of course, the Korean Weekly is finally back, getting the wheels rolling. A lot of information can be found on the homepage of Team Liquid. It'll be right there on the right side of the big news spotlight and stuff like that, so you can read all about that. I'm going to be overjoyed to give $5,000 to Liquid Tasia, because he's basically the all-time winner of every Korean Weekly ever. He just beats everybody in the Korean Weekly, and then he goes to like a big stage and gets a little nervous, but hopefully that goes away. Shout outs to Liquid Tasia, shout outs to Diamond for helping him set that up. So be sure to follow at Korean Weekly on Twitter. I'm going to be trying to commentate that. I got a really busy April because it's the last semester of school. I got a stupid amount of projects that I need to do. But once the summer hits, I'm definitely going to be trying to do what I can to get in there. So be sure to look out for
If
that.
you're going to do any casting for you, should hit me up. We should do some casting together. That'd be awesome. I'd love to do some commentating with you.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Anything else for you?
No, I
Thought
think
I
that's it for me.
interrupted. Everybody, of course, follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at VPNursky, of course, right here underneath my name. A little bit of a shout out to Baron. I got in a little bit of a discussion with him this week over one of his maps where I didn't like a gold base. So I did a little bit of statistical analysis, proved to him that the gold base was broken, and then he removed it. So I have to send him a shout out since we were going back and forth a little bit about this gold base on one of his few resource based maps that we were talking about this week. Shout out, of course, to everybody who's tuning in today. Thank you very much, everybody who's been tuning into the show on a regular basis. Really appreciate everybody who's been following the show, giving us feedback on the show, or tuning into the VODs as well. So really appreciate everybody who's been watching the show. So continue to support the show, guys. Continue to spread the word about the show if you can. I know everybody here will appreciate that because we want to have as many viewers as possible. I'm hoping to eventually get the show featured on TL, but of course that's a process where they don't want to let just any show put a feature status on. So hopefully we can do that in the future, make it a little bit easier to find the show when it's on. And then sorry once again that we had a little bit of technical problems when we started, but everything smoothed out pretty well. And I think that's going to be it for me for now. I actually have one thing to shout out. I'm going to be starting April... I want to say it's there's going to be a calendar in front of Prodigy for a second. It's going to be April 9th, I believe. Zeke is going to be starting their PokerStrategy.com 1v1 weekly tournament, where then the winner of the weekly, the daily tournaments are going to be able to get into a final tournament where they're going to be able to play for a bunch of money against a pro player. So I think it's a pretty cool concept. I'm going to do some commentating for that, so that'll be coming up shortly. And then hopefully maybe I can get some stuff done maybe with you, Prodigy, or some of you ESV guys with the ESV TV stuff in the future too. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's pretty much it for now, guys. Thank you very much for everybody tuning in. We're going to be getting out of here. Of course, we'll be back, and should be back anyways, next week at 4 p.m. Eastern once again with some more topics for you guys. So feel free to give us more feedback in the show thread that is on Team Liquid. Of course, we'll bump it when the VODs go up. I really appreciate feedback. You can also post topics and stuff you guys might be interested in hearing us discuss. So feel free to post those as well. We're going to be getting out of here for now, though, guys. So peace easy for now, guys. We will see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, man. Travis. Somebody's got to do the yawn at the end of the show every time while I'm playing the outro. Every time.
I've not been enough sleep last night.
First me, then Super, then Prodigy.
Yeah, it's the chain yawn.